The new year is all about starting fresh and with a clean slate. How about this be the year you finally put down cigarettes completely? With Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City, you can do just that. You know you've quit at the end of every cigarette. So let Wild Vapors show you how with vaping. Owners Eddie and Shelley were former smokers themselves. They started Wild Vapors because they knew they wanted to help others lay down cigarettes as well, with their own special brand formula that will help you gradually reduce your nicotine intake to eventually none at all. Their signature formula is mixed in an off-site cleanroom facility with using only the highest quality USP ingredients and leaving out artificial sweeteners and other unnecessary chemicals. Eddie and Shelley have your solution to finally laying down cigarettes. Join the 1,000 others who have found the freedom from smoking with Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Give them a call at 256-369-2569 or stop by one of their 2 locations in Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Ryan Newman wins the Goodies Fast Relief 500.
Hi, this is Ryan Newman. Being a race car driver has its perks, yet I can't think of anyone who deserves better service and support than our nation's veterans and service members. That's why VA and DoD have created eBenefits. eBenefits gives fast-track, 24/7 access to the military and VA benefits and information you need most. Go to www.ebenefits.va.gov or just do a search for VA eBenefits.
Brought to you by the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Drivers and Danica, start your engine!
Pull those belts down tight. One more time. Warm up those tires. Hit your marks and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, and Formula E racing talk. This is the fastest hour in radio.
He's going to do it. He's going to win the race and the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. California's Kevin Harvick does it. Holy cow! Chase Elliott is going to become the NASCAR Nationwide Series champion for 2014. Are you kidding me? Yes!
For the second year in a row, Matt Crafton is the Camping World Truck Series champion.
3 times he has been denied an IndyCar championship. Well, not anymore. Will Power is an IndyCar champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, our 2014 FIA Formula One World Champion, Lewis Hamilton.
Here's your host, Steve West and Justin Harmer.
All right, so all the pre-show stuff is done.
Yeah, now we got all that worked out.
Yeah, now that we have the timeline of exactly which part of by the beginning of next year, we're going to have the new intro set and ready to go.
Oh, yay. Let's start the show off with that.
Trust us. I've just been informed. It's in the works.
It's in the works.
So
it's semi sort of kind of iffy there almost.
It'll be there.
At some point.
When it gets there. Good morning to you. You're in studio.
I'm in studio. Welcome me back to Alabama.
Absolutely. Back home.
Yeah, I left at the right time, too, because it got really cold in Maryland as soon as we left.
Well, apparently you brought it with you because beginning about tomorrow, it's coming here.
Look, I already took the blame for the snow, for snowpocalypse a few years ago. I already took blame. I'm not taking blame for this.
I will say this. While we're looking at highs only in the 40s and lows down into the 20s over the next 4 or 5 days, at least after today, there's no more chances of rain in the forecast, so at least it doesn't look like we're going to get snowed in.
Yeah, I'm tired of rain. I'm really sick.
I got to admit, I am too. Now, that said, we're going to be hopefully talking with late model Mark from Talladega Short Track coming up during the show at some point in time. We've also got Jay Schiller.
Yep, Jay Schiller. Jay the Thriller is going to be calling us about at 8 o'clock or so.
Yeah. Now, from what we're hearing, rain or no rain, Ice Bowl tonight is going on.
Yeah, unconfirmed, but there, yes.
Okay.
If not, we're going to have one heck of a Sunday of racing.
That's why I'm saying I'm hoping that we're going to hear from late model Mark sometime before the show's over. By the way, 90 minutes. More on that in a second. And that'll confirm us.
Yes.
And find out for sure.
Yes, then we can get our confirmation in.
All right, so Dustin in studio, John on the board. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. Thank you.
Yes, all right. Okay. New start time, which we actually started 2 weeks ago through the holidays, but we just decided, you know what, we're going to stay here.
That's right.
7 a.m. We're going for 90 minutes. So that allowed us to also add in the NHRA.
Yes.
Which means that as I compiled all of our new stuff, I average on 13-size font, mind you, about 8 to 9 pages worth of material. Mm-hmm. When we added in the NHRA, I went into 12 pages of material.
It's amazing. Boom.
Let's see how much of that we can get to. First things first, you can check us out online, several different places, most notably social media, facebook.com/thefastesthour in radio.
That's right. You can also find us on Twitter @FastestHour and on Instagram @FastestHour, and check out all the shows uploaded as well to YouTube, youtube.com, and then search The Fastest Hour in Radio. Subscribe. Make sure you get that email every time we upload a new show. We got a couple shows up so far, got a couple more to go, and now I have 3 more that I need to put up now. That I'm home.
I'm sure you can get to that.
Yes.
And don't forget, by the way, that if you cannot reach us by listening to us on the terrestrial radio signal 101.1 FM, or you're not streaming us online, 101wide.com, you can go to the TuneIn app, search Superstation 101 WIDE, and listen to us through your smartphone or other Wi-Fi cell phone.
Basically, if you
device.
miss out on this show, and you miss everything,
it's your fault.
It's your fault. It's no longer our fault. I mean, everybody's been asking us, how can we listen to the show again? Are you guys going to be putting it up online? Now we've got it up online. And this show's been fueled by the fans. Everything that the fans want, we try to give, just like NASCAR does.
We're doing our best, no doubt.
Trying to keep up.
Also, the somewhat edited replay, going to get 60 minutes of the replay tonight, right after the replay of the Entertainment Roundtable, so 8 p.m. Saturday evening. Tomorrow morning, kind of a weird thing. Because of our 90 minutes and because of the way that we have all these little 30-minute paid programs set up, you'll get the first hour of the replay of the Entertainment Roundtable from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Then we've got a couple of 30-minute paid programs that we've got at 9:30 and at 10. So at 10:30, we'll give you the last 30 minutes of the show.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Not really.
No. These are the things that I have to do when I'm sitting here programming the weekend schedule to work out.
I've come to the realization that I am so glad I don't have your job.
There are times when I wish I didn't have my job.
Awkward.
No comment.
There are aspects of what I do that trust me, I confuse the living daylights out of myself, and I have to sit back and go, what did I do?
It's pretty bad when you start a Rubik's Cube in your brain of the stuff that you've got going on.
And then about 5 minutes later, it hits me. Wow, that actually did make sense. Only on a timing pattern.
As long as you go, I am a genius, and you raise your fist high in the sky and be all happy, it's all good in the end.
Hey, I just like the small victories.
That's right.
All right. 941-1011, toll-free 866-551-9933. Taking your phone calls here on the live Saturday morning show at 7 a.m. going until 8:30. And earlier this week, we start off with NASCAR, where NASCAR chairman Brian France appeared on the MRN radio show NASCAR Live with Eli Gold. He got to talking about franchising the teams, or as he put it, chartering them. I think I like franchising better.
Yeah.
He didn't address rumors about dropping the starting field from 43 cars down to 40 and 35 of those starting positions going to specific charter teams, but he did seem excited about the possibility of the franchising model. He said something several owners have been calling for since the mid-1990s. I know that a couple of drivers had been calling for it back then, most notably Darrell Waltrip. I have not heard the Joe Gibbses and the Rick Hendricks and the Jack Roush's of the racing world screaming for franchising, though.
Yeah, I haven't either. I mean, when we started talking about this initially, it was one of those things where I had never heard of them anybody even dropping this name kind of into anything that was actually reality until we started talking about it. Now all of a sudden everybody was saying this, that, and the other thing. I tell you who's not happy? Fans.
Yeah, it seems until we get an actual working model of this, I think we're very uncertain as to how this is going to work.
And that's exactly what a lot of them have pointed out.
Brian France said on the air, quote, "It's not so much about owners demanding it, but this is about being able to structure it with the current revenue streams and current business models that exist and things that are in play. The sponsorship model is different than it was 10 to 15 years ago. That much we can agree with. We've seen this change. Pretty much Lowe's is about the only sponsor that goes from beginning of the season to end of the season. Nowadays, even a Jeff Gordon last year, Dale Earnhardt Jr., or Tony Stewart, some of the more popular drivers that are in NASCAR, it's taken them 3, 4, sometimes 5 different sponsors to fill out 38 races, the 36 points events, and then the 2 non-points events, the Bud Shootout, which we're going to get to kick off, which is all of the guys who have ever won a pole or ever won the Bud Shootout or won a pole over the last year or so. And then, of course, the All-Star race coming up in May.
Yeah.
Lowe's, again, that's the only one that's sticking around. But you used to get Home Depot, and you used to have DuPont, and you used to have Budweiser,
that one
and
sponsor
so on and so forth.
all season.
Yeah.
It used to be that one. But, I mean, it's just how the economy works now, and that's kind of what they have to do. But it's great to see. We've talked about it on the show. It's great to see all the different sponsors and the different paint schemes they come up with, because it gives us a chance to spend more money on die casting.
Yeah, absolutely. France also went on to say that car manufacturers, specifically now Chevy, Ford, and Toyota, playing an important but different role as the years have progressed. Things have to line up in a way that will allow us to restructure in a way that benefits the sport. I guess we'll find out if it does. France also addressed some listener call-in questions, including would NASCAR ever retire numbers, which he said due to the finite number of available single and two-digit numbers available, he didn't see that happening, so it pretty much quashed the idea of going out and expanding out to three-digit numbers. I guess is that probably the best way to look at that. He also discussed what NASCAR was doing with the knowledge that Sprint was in its final year of title sponsorship for the top racing series. France said that talks are underway with several companies about taking over the sponsor role, but stopped short of saying what companies he might be talking to. One more item was that he felt that more short tracks could be added to the Camping World Truck Series schedule, but he didn't address whether any of those tracks could be more dirt tracks. I think that is likely coming in the near future. Before we even see the Xfinity Series going on to dirt, I think we'll probably see Camping World Truck Series go to a second dirt track. And then we might see it move up at least one series.
Yeah, but this is the best thing I love about Brian France. Anytime he answers a question, you are now more confused after he answers the question than you were prior to asking him the question.
I can tell how Brian France got his job. He plays politics very well.
He does. I mean, it's so vague. Well, we've got several of this and several of that, and this is this and this is that, and it's kind of like...
And you know what? We could expand out to another dirt track. Maybe.
I'd love to see that.
We would all love to see it. We actually want him to commit to it.
Yeah, that would be... well, that would be step 2. Step 1 is admitting that you have a problem.
True.
Step 2 is accepting it and making a move.
Well, with that said, that kind of brings in our great sponsor here. You have to accept the fact that you have a problem when it comes to smoking to be able to overcome it.
Yes, that's very true.
So how do you do that?
It's very easy. It's one of those things that's the easiest thing to do, and that's very simple. You go to Sylacauga or you go to Alexander City, and you visit our good friends Eddie and Shelly Bowman at Wild Vapors. They have all of the information that's going to help you. It's now the new year. Of course, you made the New Year's resolution, I'm going to lay down cigarettes forever. But
I've heard so many people say that.
And I have. I've already heard quite a few people, and I've already told them where they need to go because 9 times out of 10, they don't. And that's the thing. People make the resolution, but they don't do it. You can stick with the resolution. Simply go down and visit them. They can get you set up with a starter kit that's $30 right now. They can also get you set up with anything that you want when it's time to move up to the next level. But the best thing you can do is go down to Wild Vapors in Sylacauga in the Walmart Shopping Center, or go down to the Alex City location over by Central Alabama Community College. John has already done it himself.
Swing.
Yeah. And how's it working for you, John?
Actually, very well.
Now,
I think he's kind of surprised himself with that.
That's what I was going to say. Are you surprised at how easy it has been?
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
I'm not, oh my gosh, I've quit smoking, which I haven't, by the way.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You have the different options. A lot of people can do it. A lot of people, they need to work their way out of it. But that's the problem. A lot of things, people do the patches and the gums.
I tried those. They don't work for me.
It doesn't work. You got to find that thing that works for you. And so far, I mean, I myself, I've done it. I was able to do it a little differently. I was able to set them down, pick up the vapor same day. But you can too. You stuck to that New Year's resolution. Make sure you actually stick to it. You make it, stick to it. Visit them down there today. You can give them a call, ask them questions. We've talked about it each and every week about everything that's going on with all the different juices and the different mixes and all the non-information that you can find out there. Give them a call today, 256-369-2569. Follow them on Facebook as well. You can also message Shelly, who runs the Facebook page. That's facebook.com/wild.vapors.5. Find that information, get the information, utilize the information, and lay down cigarettes today with Wild Vapors.
There you go.
I can't stress enough how sweet Shelly is. I mean, she's so helpful and knowledgeable about the products that she has on hand. And it amazes me. It still does, how much she knows about all the vapes and vapors out there.
Yeah,
and juices and everything else that comes with it.
And of course, Eddie, our friend Eddie down there as well. I mean, he knows his things when it comes to the mechanical mods. thoughts out to him today. He's not really feeling too good. He actually had to close up shop yesterday and go home because he's very, very sick.
Get to feeling better, Eddie. We definitely want you back in that spot. That said, we were talking a little bit earlier about wanting to know what would happen. We've heard rumor, and that brings in late model Mark from Talladega Short Track, that rain or no rain, Ice Bowl tonight happening, correct?
You know how they have the 24 hours of Le Mans and 24 hours of Daytona? It might be that at Talladega today. Yesterday, announced practice, and we had our heat races for the Hot Shots, of which one of your guests, Garrett Lloyd, had a great performance and won his heat last night. But
so we've heard.
This is what they told me. Adam Stewart, who's the series director for Neesmith, and Mike Donahue, who's our race control director, said, be prepared for a long day. We might be here all day and all night. It's really, really imperative that we get the program in tonight because we have a full day Sunday. No one wants to race on Monday. That's not going to happen. There's just too many people that have to work and won't be there. So if we get rained on multiple times today, it's going to be kind of like we're going to have to wait it out unless it gets absolutely ridiculous. So our goal is to race today and or tonight to get all the qualifying and heat races in for tomorrow. And yes, tomorrow is going to be cold, but we've had that before. That's why they call it the Ice Bowl, and you just bundle up. But I'm telling you guys, when I rolled in there, I worked yesterday, and I rolled in there about 2:15, and you guys have been there before. I tell you, when I'm telling you this, I ain't kidding. There's not an inch of pit space left in that pit. That's how many cars we have. I don't have the final car count. Oh, it's just incredible. They're pitting in the spectator parking lot like normal, and inside the regular pits, there's just not an inch of space. It's quite a spectacular thing to see when you're driving in and see all these teams, and the fields for all divisions are pretty stout, especially the crate division, like Crew Skinner, and even Dallas Cooper's running crates this weekend.
Nice.
Stout fields, just really, really stout fields. And I think we had for the crates six sessions in each practice group. Wait a minute, let me think about this. Each practice session, there was 6 flights of crate cars at 10 each. So that gives you, we have at least 60. Now, more cars will show up today. Some may be scared off by the rain. But it was very odd for me to announce in turn 4 up in that little box. But I would have to say it's an heroic effort by the Talladega Short Track staff and all the racers and everybody who's joined in and helping us to get all the wiring, transponders, all the PA equipment, the scales going. It was just a giant undertaking. I didn't realize it until I walked in and I went, wow. And this is all makeshift for this weekend until we get our brand new tower built. And we're going to have a brand new tower.
I was about to say, there are plans for that, I'm sure. Do we have a timeline?
I understand somewhere by mid-April at the latest. Now, that's, of course, a very fluid thing. Sure. Mid-April at the latest. And what I heard from a couple of longtime track workers, I didn't get to see Lynn yesterday, the word was, we're going to build the tower how we want it. So that's exciting news.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Are you boys coming out today or tomorrow or both?
We will definitely be out there today. As far as tomorrow's concerned, we'll have to see how that all flows.
I'm
because, I'm dealing with the wife and everything else. So I'll give you a firm maybe on tomorrow, but tonight, definitely going to be there.
Okay, this is, I know how you're saying about the wife. I feel my wife is going to be a racing widow this weekend. And,
well, it's funny you should mention that because your wife has called in. Would you like to say hi?
I'll always say hi to my bride, man. She's the best thing on 2 legs that I've ever known.
Hello, Mrs. Late Model Mark.
Hey, good morning.
So how are you in this
How are you?
race
Happy
widow
New Year.
weekend? Yeah, Happy New Year to you, too. How are you doing in this race widow weekend?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm the pit crew over here. I keep the clean clothes and the food coming,
Absolutely.
I make the lunches when he comes in. I make sure he's all cleaned up and ready to go. But I just wanted to say Happy New Year's to you guys. And again, thanks for helping my husband live his dream because this is his dream.
He's helping us live ours, too, let's face it.
Yeah,
It's a win-win situation.
and like our motto, my husband and my motto is together we get it done. So
absolutely.
That's just what you do. You know, you work together and you get where you're going. And, you know, this fire in the tower was just actually God's way of showing you how you rise from the ashes and you just keep moving. You know, it's not a tragedy. Actually, it's a blessing because he's going to get a tower that he can actually enjoy.
There you go.
So
That's good stuff. I appreciate it. Well, Late Model Mark, Happy New Year. We hope to see you a lot this year.
Yeah,
Thank
sweetheart.
you, sir.
Get home.
When you
Your
gentlemen
breakfast is
come in
waiting.
today,
You got to get to the track.
go to the
I love you guys.
entrance.
Love you
Happy
too.
New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Okay. So yeah, make sure that you talk to her every once in a while. Okay.
I do, but don't come in the regular ticket area. Go to the pit window in the pits and see Miss Jerry, and I'll have 3 for you there. I'll tell her when I roll in today, and that way you can drive your car in the pits if you feel like it. You make it a little dirty, and
assuming we can actually find a place to park him.
Well, I'll make it happen for you.
Do I need to bring a saw and cut down a few trees?
Yeah. You know, of course, keep an eye on the weather. You know, we might be delayed hours until we get going. If it does happen to rain and it does not get stupid and we get to run tonight, hang on, boys.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Good.
It's going to be fun.
So,
no doubt.
Anyways, thank you very much for having a great show.
Absolutely. Where can the fans find out all the information that they need to get there?
Okay, the Facebook page right now would be the best bet, TalladegaShortTrack.com on Facebook. I think you can find us on Twitter as well. And our regular web page right now, it's up, but there's some things under construction, so it might not be updated. But you can go to Facebook, and things should be updated there, and you can see our towerless track, and our office is a trailer, and we have mobile concessions and very interesting setup. But we're going to get through it and kick some butt this weekend, and I'll see you boys later today whenever you show up.
Sounds good. You be careful out there today, okay?
Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.
Today, as a matter of fact, gates are opening 8 a.m. So what time is it? Yeah, they're going to be opening in about just a little over 30 minutes. Drivers meeting at 9:30. Hot laps are going to begin at 10 a.m. with qualifying racing to follow. Just so you know, if you're looking, price-wise, you want to know what you're looking at when you go out there. Grandstand admission is $20 for adults. Kids 9 and under are free. And if you want to go into pits, it's $30.
That ain't bad. That ain't bad at all. If you've checked out prices, and I'm not trying. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to throw our other bosses at Talladega Superspeedway under the bus here, but we know how much a ticket costs to go to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series weekends out there at Talladega.
Oh yeah,
this right here,
my
this
paycheck,
is real cheap. Well, yeah, this is cheap.
Oh, it's
all day.
And you get great racing from start to finish. I mean, we've been out there several times up in the tower watching all the racing action, and there isn't one race that I think I've seen out there so far that hasn't had me sitting there following all of it, and not just following one part of it, but there's so much racing all around the track, whether they're racing up front or they're racing for fifth. They're racing just as hard for each position as you would shake a stick at. And tomorrow, actually, as well, the only difference, and price is still same for tomorrow, too, with all the mains. But the gates are opening at 9 a.m. tomorrow, 8 a.m. this morning, 9 a.m. tomorrow.
And remember some of these names, because a lot of these names, we're going to be hearing about them in the future.
Oh, we are. There's a lot of them out there. I mean, we've seen some developmental drivers, as a matter of fact, for a lot of our NASCAR guys like Tony Stewart, RCR. I mean, we've seen a couple of them out there where, like, we see the logo and we're like, hey, there's another developmental driver.
So be prepared. These are the names that you're going to be hearing in 5, 10, 15 years.
Yep.
Back to Sprint Cup Series news. Recently, we got to marveling here on this show about how Darian Grubb could be out of work, considering his resume, keeping in mind as a 43-year-old guy began his career with Petty Enterprises before he moved over to Hendrick Motorsports in early 2003, started filling in as a crew chief for Jimmy Johnson in 2006 when Chad Knaus was suspended for illegal parts on the 48. From there, Darian Grubb moved to become the crew chief for Casey Mears in 2007, became the chief engineer for the 5, and then the 88 the next season when Mears was let go from the team. Moved over to Stewart-Haas Racing 2009, led Tony Stewart to his 3rd Cup championship in 2011, knowing before the chase began he would be out of that job at the end of the season, but still led the 14 team to 5 wins and 10 races in that chase. Then he moves over to Joe Gibbs Racing, initially crew chief for Denny Hamlin. He was there for 3 years. Shake-up at JGR moved him from the 11 to the 19. He was atop the war wagon as crew chief for Carl Edwards in his first season from the organization. And Carl Edwards made the chase, and he was competing for a run in the final, but unfortunately they just fell a little bit short on that. and he's let go after the 2015 season ended. It just amazes me, and I think, I'm not going to speak for you, but I think you as well, how a guy with the pedigree that he's got would be out of a job.
Well, I think what really kind of just befuddles me to no end is you got a guy in Carl Edwards that comes over in his first season over in that 19 Toyota, and you've got him up on the war wagon. So they make the chase. They do extremely well this year, and we've started to see a kind of a trend in that when the guys come over from another team. But Carl Edwards really did a great job this year, and Darian was part of that reason. I mean,
Absolutely.
You have to have the crew chief driver combo. The thing that really, I mean, when you go back a little bit and you look at when he came over to JGR in the first place, and he was over there with Denny Hamlin, I'm just going to say this. It's probably hard to work with Denny Hamlin in the first place because doesn't seem like even anybody who gets up on the box for him has a great time working with him.
They seem to do well for 26 races, and then you get into the chase, and for some reason, proverbially, the wheels fall off.
That's not a crew chief problem. That's a driver problem.
Agreed. And it was the problem that we had seen out of the guy that you like to call Voldemort up until this past year. We always expected that 18 car to fall flat some point in time during the chase.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether this is a JGR thing or whether it's just a mental block that he had that he got over and that Denny Hamlin has and can't figure out how to get over. I don't know.
I already know what Voldemort. I know what Voldemort's issue was.
What?
Look at Kevin Harvick. Bad boy of NASCAR, Kyle Busch, bad boy of NASCAR.
Sure.
Yes, I said his name. But if you look at this fact, Kevin Harvick has a child.
Yes.
Sprint Cup champion.
I see where you're
Voldemort has a child. Sprint Cup champion. And they've both said it.
Voldemort Jr.?
They've both said it to the degree that having a child calmed them down. It helped them to actually focus on what they needed to do. And I think that is what propelled Kyle Busch this season to come back from 11 races down, the broken leg and the broken foot and everything else, to come back and then finish so strong. He was able to really concentrate on what he needed to do. He wasn't letting things get the better of him. He wasn't going out there and getting all mad and getting rowdy like he does. He actually took the time and said, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to fix, and they went out there and did it.
Got to admit, I have not looked into this. Denny Hamlin, is he married or is he just got a girlfriend?
He's got a girlfriend. They've got a child.
But it hasn't settled him down.
But it hasn't settled him down, so maybe somebody
maybe it has something to do with that ring on the finger.
Oh, my gosh, there's a song in my head now.
Well, back to Darian Grubb. He has landed on his feet at a pretty nice place.
Hey, been there.
Been at Hendrick Motorsports, and he's back at Hendrick Motorsports. Rick Hendrick, as a matter of fact, actually created a role that was previously not in existence at the organization. He is now the Vehicle Production Director. He's working alongside former Casey Kane crew chief Kenny Francis, both reporting directly to Hendrick Motorsports General Manager Doug Ducart, but his exact job duties not detailed. Vehicle Production Director.
Is that kind of like we're bringing you on and giving you a really cool title so you sound really awesome, but you really don't do anything?
It'll look great on a business card.
It would. I mean, I would love to have that on my business card, especially in NASCAR.
Speaking of well-known crew chiefs that are finding themselves in new positions, Roush Fenway Racing announced they have moved crew chief Bob Osborne over from Trevor Bayne's car to the one being driven by 2015 Xfinity Series champ Chris Buescher. Buescher set to compete for Rookie of the Year honors in the Sprint Cup Series, driving for Front Row Motorsports. He will be on loan from Roush Fenway. So this means that Roush Fenway Racing needed to find new crew chief for Trevor Bayne, who Osborne led in 2015. That's actually going to be Matt Puccia, who had been with Greg Biffle for the past 5 seasons. Biffle, as we detailed in mid-December, has a new crew chief, Brian Patty. Puccia had been slated to go down to the Xfinity Series. That's obviously not going to happen. We'll get back to that when we get to Xfinity Series news.
Oh, boy.
Our thoughts and our prayers go out to Stewart-Haas Racing Organization's employees Les Huntley. Huntley, who is a front suspension mechanic, reportedly suffered a stroke New Year's Day, and it left his left side paralyzed. Huntley was the second gas man for Danica Patrick on the 10 car in 2015. He was handing the cans over the wall to the man filling up the car during the pit stops. Earlier this week, a GoFundMe account was set up to help out and offset some of the medical expenses, quickly surpassing a goal of $10,000. And at last report, it was close to $20,000. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to him because, let's face it, this career notwithstanding, this is something that is a life-threatening issue. If I know Stewart-Haas Racing, they're going to do everything they can to help support him, but anything that can be done within the racing community to help out a guy like that and the family, because expenses become they start to rack up quickly.
Yeah, and we talk about it right here on the show. Every time something happens, the racing community comes together.
And they should in this case. We got to take our first break of the day. We're only 30 minutes in. We got an hour to go. We'll be talking about some tracks making changes. Moving over to the Verizon Indycar Series. Got Formula One, FIA, Formula E, and NHRA still to go on this edition of the Fastest Hour in Radio.
You're listening to the Fastest Hour in Radio on Superstation 101.
The new year is all about starting fresh and with a clean slate. How about this be the year you finally put down cigarettes completely? With Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City, you can do just that. You know you've quit at the end of every cigarette. So let Wild Vapors show you how with vaping. Owners Eddie and Shelley were former smokers themselves. They started Wild Vapors because they knew they wanted to help others lay down cigarettes as well, with their own special brand formula that will help you gradually reduce your nicotine intake to eventually none at all. Their signature formula is mixed in an off-site cleanroom facility with using only the highest quality USP ingredients and leaving out artificial sweeteners and other unnecessary chemicals. Eddie and Shelley have your solution to finally laying down cigarettes. Join the 1,000 others who have found the freedom from smoking with Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Give them a call at 256-369-2569 or stop by one of their 2 locations in Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
4 new tires and a tank of gas. And we're back to the Fastest Hour in Radio on Superstation 101.
Hey, welcome back in. Fastest Hour in Radio rolling on here. We're continuing to talk about NASCAR and got a report from ESPN's Bob Pockris, who you and I have come to know pretty decently over the past year or so. He's reporting Premium Motorsports might actually have shelved their Camping World Truck Series plans and have replaced them with Sprint Cup Series racing ambitions. The team, we recently found out, purchased the cars and the equipment of Hillman Racing and brought most of the team staff on board with them. Mark Hillman and most of the employees that worked on the number 40 Chevy SS are now working for Jay Robinson at Premium. Plans are for Premium Motorsports to field 2 rides, one a full-time ride, and plans to run a second car on a part-time basis. We haven't heard sponsors, we haven't heard drivers, but I applaud their ambition.
We can call it ambition.
I'm hoping that they're not biting off more than they can chew.
Okay, you're shelving your Camping World Truck Series plans.
Again, this is the report that he's hearing. Yeah. Things may change.
But you're skipping from step 3 to step 1.
That's right.
Well, step 1 to step 3 without going through the Xfinity side of things.
So they're
I hope you're ready.
Again, Hillman did run last year with the 40 car in the Cup Series.
They did.
So at least they have some experience there, but Premium Motorsports as a whole doesn't have any.
Yeah, that's a lot of ambition.
Let's hope so. As for milestones, we're going to get back to later, by the way, in the show in the Verizon IndyCar Series as well. First, we're going to look at the Sprint Cup Series level, and it seems so long since Dale Earnhardt Jr. left the company that his father started, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. He left the 8, took over the 88 at Hendrick Motorsports. Thing is, it actually might not be as long as you think. When he starts his 6th race of the 2016 season, he will finally have surpassed the start total that he had while behind the wheel of the number 8 car.
Really?
Started 291 races in the 8, and barring injury or something else untold, Kyle Busch, when the series heads to Martinsville, Dale Jr. will finally have reached 292 starts in the 88. I didn't realize, I don't know whether it was just the fact that I didn't think about how long he had been driving the 8 car. I didn't realize he had that many races in the 8.
I mean, you would never know when you used to go to the flea markets and stuff, because there was like tents that were designed only for the 8, and they were still selling the stuff while he was driving the 88.
That's true.
And there's still people buying it.
We'll see.
I didn't realize that either. That's very interesting.
If you're a person in search of some ultimate Jeff Gordon memorabilia of the Surefire Hall of Famer, we might have the car for you, literally. At this month's Barrett-Jackson Auto Auction in Arizona, another auction we're going to talk about later, the car that Jeff Gordon drove in what was then the Busch Series, when he drove a Ford Thunderbird, the number 92 Baby Ruth car, then owned by Bill Davis Motorsports, it's going across the auction block. The car has a pedigree. It was the car that Gordon nabbed his first ever NASCAR win in.
Oh, wow.
This is a no-reserve car, so you can start as low as $1, and it doesn't matter how low the bidding is. When everything comes to an end, it will sell. That'll be interesting. We see stuff like this all the time.
I think at some point today I need to go to Georgia and go get some Powerball tickets so I can go ahead and buy that car.
It's funny, my wife and I were sitting there talking about that yesterday, and considering we live in the Birmingham area, and I said, well, I'm going to Talladega, and she got to talking about the Powerball, and I mentioned Talladega, and she's like, well, you're going to be like halfway to Georgia.
You might as well just go the distance.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, not only is that a waste of gas, it's a waste of money to get the tickets.
Wait a second, road trip. All we got to do is get to the Loves on the other side of the line.
It's true. All we got to do is get to, what is it, exit 5?
Yeah, it's right there.
Exit 5 or exit 5 is the first one. It's exit 11, if I remember correctly, that the Loves is at.
All we got to do is get off at one and just find the first gas station
the one that
sells a ticket.
And then we could go and buy Jeff Gordon's very first NASCAR win car.
If we could just have our own team.
Yeah, exactly. Officials with Kentucky Speedway are announcing plans to give the track a facelift. Among the things they're planning to do is a repave of the track. This track is not that old.
I was extremely surprised by this.
They're planning on a repave in hopes of eliminating the bumpy track that the drivers have been complaining about. They also hope to avoid the weepers that occur after heavy rains, despite using air-tightened equipment, which generally dries the track of a Kentucky 1.5-mile length in about a half an hour or so. Some of the water seems to kind of stay right below there, and it comes up through the surface, which causes more delays. We have seen that at some tracks. Talladega, thankfully, since they did that repave, they really did a lot of work up underneath the surface of it to where it doesn't cause that. The water doesn't just stay right there, so you don't see those anymore. But we have seen some other tracks that have had problems with that. Kentucky wants to get rid of that. I congratulate them on that.
Yeah.
The track has only been open since 2000, so 16 years, not even, of on-track racing action. And they're going to go to a complete resurface. Should be completed, they say, before NASCAR comes calling on the first weekend of July. A reconfiguration is also going to take place in part of the track. They're going to narrow the width of the track down from its 74 feet wide from apron to outside wall down to 56 feet wide through turns 1 and 2.
Jeez.
They're also going to increase the banking from 14 degrees up to 17 in turns 1 and 2. Things are going to remain the same in turns 3 and 4. That will give the track, yes, a very distinct personality. Also, track officials said that the facelift will include another 3,200 feet of safer barrier added to the walls. This is going not necessarily to be Darlington-esque, so to speak, but you're going to have the narrower track with the higher banking in turns 1 and 2. It's going to give 1 and 2 a very different look than turns 3 and 4, and that is where the similarity to a Darlington comes in the fact that you got a much tighter radius in one turn or, on one end of the track as opposed to the other.
I'm very upset.
Why?
Because I just mastered that track.
And now you got to do it all over again.
Yeah, now my stuff's out the window.
Another track making changes, Richmond International Raceway. They've announced plans earlier this week taking more seats out. This has become a trend here in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
Richmond officials stated they're going to be removing all the stands along the backstretch, which means removing 9,000 seats, give or take, in all. That'll drop max capacity to just over 60,000 spectators. When all is said and done, Richmond's seating capacity is going to be down 45% over the top numbers of about a decade ago when they could seat 110,000 in there. They're almost down 50%. But again, we're seeing this a lot. Talladega's done it. Daytona had done it before they did the whole $400 million facelift. Dover has done it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the others that are obviously Richmond. We just talked about them. Martinsville, I think, has cut down some as well.
Well, they've taken their seats and basically taken 3 seats and become 1. They gave you a little bit. Well, I mean, the only thing about the difference with Martinsville is the fact that the seats, I mean, if you, I, and John sat in the seats together, I mean, we would basically be so crushed together, it wouldn't even be funny because when they designed those seats and put the numbers, people were really, really, really tiny.
Yeah.
And now people are not tiny anymore?
Well, and then you think about what they did at Talladega. Granted, they took down the Allison grandstands off the backstretch, so those are gone totally, and that eliminated, I'm trying to think, 15 to 20,000 seats.
Something like that.
Somewhere in that area. And then along the tower, along the tri-oval, which could initially have seated 125,000 people, for every 5 seats they took out, they replaced them with 4. In other words, they went from 18-inch wide seats to 22-inch wide seats, which is what they are now. So it dropped the grandstand seating capacity from 125 to 104,000. So in ways, it's making it more comfortable as well.
And that's what they're looking at. I mean, you're sitting there for hours on end watching a race. You don't want to be crunched together and everything else, and you want to have a good view. I mean, I would have loved to have had a chance to go back to the Allison grandstands and watch a race from there. But
we used to see a lot of action coming off a turn.
Yeah,
too,
you know. But now the action is in the tri-oval.
It really is. It's
off
become
of
that way.
into the tri-oval.
Yeah.
So
all right. Down to the Xfinity Series, back to Roush Fenway Racing, and back to the information about Matt Puccia and who will take his place over there, since he's now confirmed to be Trevor Bayne's crew chief in the Sprint Cup Series. Puccia had been announced as the crew chief for the Alabama-based driver, Darrell Wallace Jr., but Roush Fenway Racing say that they're going to actually stick with 2015 crew chief Seth Barber, who took over for Chad Norris about midway through the 2015 season. At about that point, this was Watkins Glen, give or take, and you had Darrell Bubba Wallace Jr. He was in control of the Rookie of the Year standings. He was constantly fighting for wins. He was battling for top 5 in points. Right about the time Seth Barber took over, now all of a sudden Daniel Suarez comes up. He's the guy that ends up getting Rookie of the Year. Darrell Wallace Jr. starts to slip down in the standings a little bit, finishes behind Suarez in the second half of the top 10. I don't know whether this is a we need to get to know each other better sort of thing, or whether Seth Barber's just not that guy. But I think because of the idea behind Matt Puccia, they felt almost stuck with Seth Barber, with all due respect to him.
I think, well, we talk about it. We talk about the communication. You got to have that right communication between your crew chief and your driver. And if you see a drastic change like that because there's something going on,
Right.
then something's not right there.
Yeah.
And then it takes forever to find that grouping again. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing.
In this case, stability may be a good thing for that car. I hope that it is.
That's what they need right now.
I think Darrell Wallace Jr. is a much better driver. And granted, again, top 10 finish in the points in that series last year, but I think he's a much better driver than even those results showed.
Prime example, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
True.
Very, very, very not hard to work with. But it's the fact of his communication is an old school type of communication.
Right.
And it's been very hard to find that person that worked well with him. Steve Letarte comes from an old school type-esque thing when he worked with Jeff Gordon and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, he was able to fit into that and know exactly what Junior was talking about. That's the type of thing you got to look at too. Their different communication styles really come into play.
Okay. Denny Hamlin's watching all kinds of people leave him. Joe Gibbs Racing has announced crew chief assignments for the Xfinity Series, starting off with Chris Gabehart. Gabehart steps down from the race engineer position of the Denny Hamlin number 11 Sprint Cup Series entry to become the crew chief for Eric Jones as he takes over the number 20 in the Xfinity Series. Scott Graves moves over to Joe Gibbs Racing from Roush Fenway. He's going to be the crew chief for Daniel Suarez. He's hoping to help Suarez do what Chris Buescher did last year, win that series title. Chris Gale's going to remain the crew chief of the third Xfinity Series car. That's going to be driven by a number of drivers, including probably, I would say, at least 3 of the Sprint Cup Series drivers of Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Matt Kenseth all do tend to drive a pretty good number of Xfinity Series events. I haven't seen Carl Edwards do a whole lot of that here over the past year or so, not since he came over to Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah,
anyway.
he's really slacked off.
So I don't know whether
nothing.
he'll be included into that or not. We'll have to find out.
I doubt it. It seems like a lot of these Sprint Cup drivers that are like really want to go out and grab a championship, minus Kyle Busch, but they seem to back off of that secondary series and everything else so they can concentrate. Seems like Carl Edwards, it worked out well for him this year.
Well, you mentioned backing off. We'll get back to that in a second. First things first, quick couple of notes in the secondary series. Joey Gase returns to Jimmy Means Racing this coming season. That'll be his second with the organization. I think that's a good thing for them. It means some stability there.
Yes.
Precision Performance Motorsports has been working on cars for both the Xfinity and K&N Pro Series East. Both of those efforts going to be part-time drivers at this point in time, not been named. Kyle Busch has been kind of a whipping boy for us here recently because of the fact that
He always is.
He runs so many Xfinity and Camping World Truck Series events, and we're tired of talking about the Moonlighter winning.
Yes.
Kyle Busch Motorsports has announced the addition of former Sprint Cup Series crew chief Kevin Bono Mannion, joining the Camping World Truck Series organization, becoming the pit chief of the 4 truck. This is the truck that Eric Jones piloted at the 2015 Series Championship last year.
Right.
In 2016, the truck's going to be split between Xfinity Series driver Daniel Suarez and Cody Coughlin. Banyan, who spent 2015 with Sam Hornish Jr. at Richard Petty Motorsports, brings along a resume, includes the 2010 Daytona 500 and the 2010 Brickyard 400 alongside driver Jamie McMurray, so a nice resume for him.
Oh, yes.
He also led Martin Truex Jr. to back-to-back then Nationwide Series titles in 04 and 05. When neither Suarez nor Coughlin are in the truck, it's set to be driven by 2015 K&N Pro Series East champion William Byron. He's going to have his own crew chief, Rudy Fugel, who moves over from the Ford truck where he had been paired with Eric Jones. Meanwhile, the second KBM truck be piloted by Christopher Bell. He ran 7 races for the organization in 2015, now steps into a full-time role. He's going to have Jones's former crew chief, Jerry Baxter. No word on how many races Busch himself will attempt, but in looking at this split, it looks like it's going to be severely curtailed.
And I am thrilled.
I thought you would be.
As probably will be every other Camping World Truck Series fan.
Really. And we talked about this a couple of years ago.
Drivers.
The sponsors for Kyle Busch Motorsports.
Everybody under the sun. Okay, everybody took a number. Sponsors, drivers, fans.
Yeah.
They're all happy about this.
The last year that Darrell Wallace Jr. was over there and he wanted to move up to the Xfinity Series, but Gibbs said, sorry, don't have room for you, and punted him, and he ended up at Roush Fenway. Darrell Wallace Jr.'s Camping World Truck Series sponsor complained to Kyle Busch Motorsports because Kyle Busch was running in and winning so many races that their own full-time Darrell Bubba Wallace Jr. sponsored truck wasn't getting as much airtime.
Yeah, well, that's when you start affecting your business.
Exactly.
And that's when your truck series...
Hopefully Kyle Busch has gotten the memo.
Maybe Samantha kind of smacked him upside the head a little bit.
Birmingham area native Mike Harmon, he's got his own Mike Harmon Racing, has announced that they are actually going to bring back Tim Vines in 2015. Here's the thing. We've been used to him being in the Camping World Truck Series. That's not a full-time effort anymore. In fact, they're going to split their efforts. Vines and Harmon reportedly working on a limited schedule that would put him in some Trucks races and some Xfinity Series races. So Mike Harmon Racing starting to expand out a little bit. Again, not a full-time effort on either one, but I guarantee you we're going to hear about Mike Harmon Racing at both of the Talladega weekends, one at Camping World Truck Series weekend, the other the Xfinity Series weekend.
That'd be a little different.
I like it.
That
I like
good.
This. He's expanding himself out. Now he's going to figure out where it is that he can go, and working with Tim Vines and keeping some stability there. Maybe he can figure out, am I better at the Camping World Truck Series? Do I look good at the Xfinity Series level, and go from there?
Well, it does. It gives you an opportunity to try a couple of different things, and like you said, see which one you might be better at, and maybe then run that one.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you can't do that if you don't start to do those kinds of things.
And Vines, I think, shows some pretty good promise there. We saw him do some pretty good runs there towards the end of the year, so it'll be interesting to see how that gels now as they get into season 2 with each other.
Definitely.
Former Camping World Truck Series driver Mike Skinner has been out of NASCAR for several years now, but he's still racing. Now he's doing it for a cause. Kicked off his 2016 Drive for Hope campaign and did it in a winning fashion. He took a late model racer for the first time in about 10 years, by the way, when he climbed into one, and got the win at New Smyrna Speedway. All the profits from his racing this year are going to go to benefit Hope for the Warriors, a nonprofit group, a military support group focusing on restoring self, family, and hope for post 9/11 service members, veterans, and their families. Mike Skinner hasn't revealed his full 2016 racing schedule, but it is expected, he says, to be a very busy year for him. Congratulations. Great cause.
Yes.
Great thing that he is doing there.
Definitely.
NASCAR well represented in the first annual Auto Week Awards. And I say first annual, which is why you probably have never heard of them before.
Yeah.
Auto Week magazine is noting accomplishments in racing, and with several awards we're going to sprinkle throughout our show today. We're going to start in NASCAR, obviously. Chevrolet was named their 2016 Constructor Award. They claimed the manufacturer's title in NASCAR's Sprint Cup Series and the Verizon IndyCar Series. That was good enough for the magazine to claim that the Bowtie brand was their best brand of 2015.
Bowtie.
Eric Jones moving up from the Camping World Truck Series to the Xfinity Series full-time and for points in 2016 was named the Rising Star Award winner. There's a shock.
We knew that one already. Come on,
yeah,
Auto
really.
Week.
Jones has wins at both levels. He claimed the 2015 Camping World Truck Series championship as well. The magazine also created a Lifetime Achievement Award. They named it after noted longtime NASCAR and auto reporter Denise McCluggage, who passed away last year. The retiring Jeff Gordon was given the first ever Denise McCluggage Lifetime Achievement Award. Seems natural. As the four-time champion, claimed 93 wins in his storied career, steps out from behind the wheel, will continue his racing career, but behind a Fox Sports microphone. He'll join Mike Joy and Darrell Waltrip in the broadcast booth as the network's slate of 2016 Sprint Cup Series races begin in about middle of next month.
Yeah, we have 7 Sundays till the Daytona 500, just throwing that out there. Did you see the picture of him holding the microphone?
He seems almost a little uncomfortable, doesn't he?
He looks extremely uncomfortable. He looks like he's used to having that arm out a little bit more, as in holding a helmet.
Either holding a helmet or getting ready to shift.
Yeah,
I don't know which.
He's got that microphone and it just looks...
Yeah, he seems a little stiff. He's going to have to loosen up. He's going to have to get some tips from Darryl Waltrip and Larry McReynolds and those guys.
Somebody went in there and like manipulated his arm. No, you need to hold it like you tilt your head a little bit this way, tilt this way.
Yeah, it doesn't look natural.
It does not.
Sorry.
No. Sorry, Jeff.
All right, over to the Verizon IndyCar Series. Last week got to talking about how Will Power and Elio Castroneves could be climbing the ranks of the all-time pole winners in the Verizon IndyCar Series. You remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
This week, we're going to look at the all-time wins list in the series. Some current drivers could also begin to move up in those rankings this year. Now, the legend, A.J. Foyt, he's got the all-time record with wins, 67, not in any danger of falling this year, with all due respect to the talent at the Verizon IndyCar Series level that we have now. Mario Andretti sits second at 52. It would take an exceptional year for one of the two drivers we're about to mention, but that could be passed this year.
It could happen.
Michael Andretti is third. He holds 42. That's definitely under fire. Al Unser, 39. Only one behind him is our defending champion and current racer, Scott Dixon. 38 wins puts him fifth all time. Should he match his 2015 total of 3 wins, he would move ahead of Unser. He'd be only one behind Michael Andretti. Also set to climb up the charts, Sebastian Bourdais. He holds 34 wins. He's tied for 7th overall with Al Unser Jr. He's only one behind Bobby Unser. It's the Racing Unser family. Bourdais claimed 1 win in 2015, so he could at least tie, or move into another tie, I guess I should say. Also, the aforementioned Elio Castroneves and Will Power could begin to climb up as well. Castroneves could become only the 11th driver in series history, holding 30 wins. He's got 29 right now. He's tied with Rick Mears. Will Power has 25 career wins. With a good year, he could move up to become the 12th driver to attain 30 wins. So a lot of movement over there on the all-time wins list.
Well, longevity. And that has a lot to do with it as well.
It really does.
It does.
Yeah, and Scott Dixon has proven that. He's got 4 championships now. As we mentioned, he's just about ready to climb into the 40 wins rank and so on.
But is it the fact that it's the longevity, or is it the fact that the sport has come along so much that now these guys, I mean, I don't want to call them, like they're not as tough as the original guys are. I don't want to say that, so I don't want them to take offense to that. But you know what I mean?
I see where you're going.
They went through a lot more back in the day.
Agreed.
For like A.J. Foyt and all of that. They went through a lot more, physically than the guys do now. Now it's, they've got the great suits and the air. And back in the old school days, they had to really do some stuff. So the longevity thing kind of comes into play a little bit.
And the other side of it is you go back and you look at a Mario Andretti or an A.J. Foyt. A.J. Foyt used to build the cars that he raced.
Right.
And I don't mean to disrespect a Scott Dixon or Elio Castroneves.
Since
they've been in the Verizon IndyCar Series, trust me, they ain't built a car.
Yeah.
They may have helped turn a wrench or two, but they ain't built one.
Yeah, so the thing, you got to look at that fact, too. It's the physical. It's the physical thing. So, I mean, these guys that are coming up, and I'm not taking anything away from them. They're awesome, the fact that they're moving up the list like that. But try and do it the way that the guys did back in the day, like A.J. Foyt, Michael Andretti, and all that.
Totally different time. Roger Penske and his Team Penske organization slated to celebrate their 50th anniversary of what is now the IndyCar operations. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Of just his racing operations overall. Since he started, Team Penske, as they're now known, has won 178 wins across all different series. They've got the most Indy 500 wins of any organization, 16. To begin with, all the drivers who can make it, past and present, going to be on hand at Penske's Charlotte, North Carolina facility on January the 20th. This is going to cover all aspects of Penske's racing history, by the way, not just the IndyCar drivers. Indianapolis Motor Speedway's Hall of Fame going to unveil a 1-year-only Team Penske exhibit. It'll debut next month. It'll feature cars that represent each of the Penske drivers' first wins with the Indy 500, along with their vehicles, artifacts, and trophies from the motorsports history of Team Penske. NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina will open up a Team Penske exhibit. No details on exactly what's going to be shown. Roger Penske racing in and of itself began back in 1966. They were doing sports cars and endurance events. We had Late Model Mark on last half hour. He was talking about the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Well, Roger Penske got himself really well known by getting into the 24 Hours of Daytona and other endurance events there. He then grew into IndyCar and then expanded out to NASCAR. Here's the resume. Team Penske, since they began, over all levels of racing, 424 race wins, 487 pole positions, and 28 national championships to their credit.
That is awesome.
Congratulations on 50 years as well.
That'd be great to see that at the Hall of Fame in Charlotte, though.
Yeah.
It's only an 8-hour drive, Steve.
Yeah, but we do have Ice Bowl tonight. If we're going to do one road trip and get lottery tickets tonight, Charlotte's not in the cards.
Yeah, but that's January. Well,
you're thinking later on in the year?
Yeah, I'm thinking a little later on in the year.
What if we can convince them to allow us to broadcast live?
We are on the road currently right now, heading to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hey, boss, if you're listening, just throwing out an idea, man.
He just shook his head no.
Yeah, right. We asked you about the chance to own a race car with pedigree back when we talked about Jeff Gordon's then Busch Series car from 1992 rolling across an auction block.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd prefer to have an open-wheel car, we might have a deal for you. Gooding & Company auction, also taking place this month in Arizona, is going to see an Indy 500 winning racer cross the auction block. It's the car that one Ryan Hunter-Reay took to the victory lane in the Indy 500 in 2014. Here's the weird caveat to this. The team's actually going to keep possession of the racer because they're actually still using it in competition. It'll allow the winning bidder to be added to the car's ownership in official paperwork. No word on what the auction house thinks the bidding will begin with.
I'm confused. Okay.
You get to bid.
You get to bid.
You become
part owner
of the car for the money that you have, and you get to see it on the racetrack, but you'll never have it parked in your driveway or garage.
Okay, here's a couple of bad things.
Just a couple?
Just a couple. One, am I getting any money from the wins?
That is not detailed.
Okay. Secondly, say the car is, I don't know, for the lack of better saying,
cracked
up, destroyed because of a wreck.
Yes.
I now own a oversized paperweight.
Yes, you do. Which you can then present in your garage.
I guarantee you they'll put it in your garage then.
Absolutely.
Sure, you can have it now. Here's the steering wheel. Oh, we found a part of the hood.
Yeah, here's a tie rod, by the way.
A tie rod. Here's the last little bit of the tire that's left.
Yeah, the part of the hood. I love that.
You know, that just does not seem like something I would be interested in. I mean, it would be okay. Granted, it would be cool to own a car be part owner on a car that's actually going around the track.
We usually hear in relation to these things that money's going to charity.
Yeah.
Haven't heard anything related to that.
I'm not seeing.
It doesn't mean that it's not. I just haven't heard anything.
That was
related
my
to
additional question. So there we go. All my stupid questions have been asked now.
There you go. Auto Week magazine honoring Juan Pablo Montoya as we go back to their awards, their first annual Moment of the Year award. First ever Auto Week awards announced earlier this week. Montoya claimed the win in the 99th Indy 500. He was awarded top moment because he rallied from 30th place to claim the win of just over 1/10 of a second. A former IndyCar racer has been sentenced to prison. According to the Florida newspaper, the Naples Daily News, 45-year-old John Herb, who I never have heard of in my life,
never heard of him,
entered a plea of no contest to charges of lewd and lascivious molestation, along with 13 counts of child pornography possession. Sentence handed down is 25 years behind bars. He was arrested back in October of 2013 when his estranged wife said that she noted almost 250 pictures and 3 videos on his laptop computer of Herb himself engaged in sexual acts of a child under the age of 10.
Oh. You know.
Yeah. Herb was only a part-time racer in his Indy Racing League time from 2000 to 2007. Qualified for 16 events over that time, including 2 Indy 500s. Finished 27th in 2001, his best finish. 2007, he finished 32nd. 25 years. Almost not long enough.
No, it's not long enough at all. Put him in general population, too.
Good luck. On that note, we're going to take a break.
Yeah, we need to now.
We're only slightly more than halfway through.
I know we still got more to come.
Oh, yeah, we do. We've got Formula One, FIA Formula E, and NHRA.
Whatever else comes down the pike. And a call.
And a call. We'll have to see how much of it we can get to. We'll get to as much of it as we can when we come back.
The new year is all about starting fresh and with a clean slate. How about this be the year you finally put down cigarettes completely? With Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City, you can do just that. You know you've quit at the end of every cigarette. So let Wild Vapors show you how with vaping. Owners Eddie and Shelley were former smokers themselves. They started Wild Vapors because they knew they wanted to help others lay down cigarettes as well, with their own special brand formula that will help you gradually reduce your nicotine intake to eventually none at all. Their signature formula is mixed in an off-site cleanroom facility with using only the highest quality USP ingredients and leaving out artificial sweeteners and other unnecessary chemicals. Eddie and Shelley have your solution to finally laying down cigarettes. Join the 1,000 others who have found the freedom from smoking with Wild Vapors in Sylacauga and Alexander City. Give them a call at 256-369-2569 or stop by one of their 2 locations in Sylacauga Walmart Shopping Center or their Alexander City location. Stay on track with Wild Vapors.
Tony Stewart wins the Cobalt Tools 400.
This is Tony Stewart here to tell you about a way veterans and service members can get on the fast track for well-deserved benefits. It's called eBenefits, a website created by VA and DoD that gives veterans, service members, and families instant access to more than 40 benefits and services. It's a way to serve those who have served us. To get started, just go to www.ebenefits.va.gov or just do a search for VA eBenefits.
Brought to you by the Department of Veterans Affairs.
The only show that covers NASCAR, Indycar, and Formula One. The fastest hour in radio on Superstation 101.
This is a Dustin thing right here. I just wanted to give him at least some love over here on music. I don't even know what the heck this is. What is this?
This is Linkin Park.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
Song called Guilty.
Yes.
And I only know that because I'm reading it off the screen.
Yeah, because I put it in the system.
Yeah.
This is my song to Kyle Busch.
Well,
Guilty.
actually, this is our song to John Herb.
Yeah, that actually works too.
Over to Formula One. Very first year of the first American-based Formula One team since the 1970s has the F1 world talking specifically about how they've cozied up to Scuderia Ferrari and therefore could be a mid-range contender right out of the box, which has Haas F1 team principal Gunther Steiner pulling back on the reins while coming in with Ferrari engines and a close relationship to the longest-running team in the sport. Rules, which clamp down on collusion, has Steiner saying that the sharing of much information is being closely watched and is actually in some ways being deterred by both the FIA and Formula One leaders. What Haas has been able to do is use the Ferrari wind tunnel in Maranello, Ferrari's hometown, in Italy. They've also used their facilities in order to do initial development work on their car, with word that the 2016 engine that Haas F1 is using will be the same one that Ferrari used in 2015. It did garner them a second-place finish in the Manufacturers' Cup, by the way. All that has some following the sport, including myself, feeling that they could be a mid-range contender in their first year. I figured that they were going to get some championship points. You would see more than likely Romain Grosjean, but also possibly Esteban Gutierrez, at least get some 9th and 10th, maybe even an 8th or a 7th place finish. I figure, give or take, 15 to 25 championship points for the Manufacturers' Cup overall. I'm not expecting big things. Mercedes claimed over 400.
15 to 25 would be big.
Yeah, for a first-year team,
yeah,
that would be big. I don't think that really puts them up as mid-range, though.
No, it doesn't, but I like that number. That's a good round number to go with.
Yeah, I think it's a nice starting area, good expectation.
That's a great springboard
for a company that is as connected as they say that they are with Ferrari.
Yeah, now if you come out and you lay a goose egg, then there's a problem.
Yeah. Steiner also hosted a camera crew from CNN, showed them the basics of their UK facility. While not much was revealed, it does appear to show that the drivers are going to be using the numbers 8 and 21 on their cars. On the bright white painted walls of the former Manor Marussia facility that Gene Haas won at an auction last year, they're painted black. The numbers, where the cars are going to have the final details added, kind of like pit stalls, if you will, inside the facility. Later in the 3-minute-long video, there was a pit board that showed the number 8 and the name Grosjean, so by process of elimination, Esteban Gutierrez, it seems, will drive the number 21. This year, this is so far unconfirmed by the team, as officials state that the numbers will go on the cars when they finally get into race trim. Again, I said here on the Wild Prediction segment last week that they would gain some championship points. Romain Grosjean, Steiner recently commented on that speculation, said, quote, "It's positive to hear, but it's talk. We need to be careful. What we need to be careful of is not to believe the propaganda of what people are saying. As I've said, it's always very difficult to predict because everybody else could have developed better things." He continues on by saying, "You don't know who moves where. If they all did a fantastic job to get into the lower midfield, it would be difficult. There's lots of big talk about us, which is nice to hear, but I don't get carried away. I try to stay realistic. All things, according to Steiner, are on target for them to make the preseason's first testing session in Barcelona, Spain, February 22nd, right about the time NASCAR slated to kick off their 2016 campaign as well. So a lot of things coming out of Haas F1. We'll find out how much of that actually has any kind of meat on the bone, if you will.
I love the wild predictions.
You didn't. Well, you had a Formula One wild prediction last week, and that was that it wasn't Lewis Hamilton; it was Nico Rosberg that was going to come away with the title.
that was my wild prediction.
You might be onto something. It might not be all that wild.
I do have a wild prediction now that I actually had a chance to think about it. Thank you for putting me on the spot.
Sure.
Jimmy Johnson retires from NASCAR.
That would be a wild prediction. Wow. Well, if he does retire from NASCAR, we have the driver that should fill in. Jay the Thriller Schiller from Talladega Short Track, almost. How are you?
Pretty good. We're heading down Speedway Boulevard right now.
Very nice. Very nice. How does it look out there?
Crowded. Very, very, very crowded.
That's a good thing. We like that.
Thing, yes.
Where did you end up finding a pit? Because we had talked to Late Model Mark last hour, and he was saying that they're actually pitting out into the fan spectator area.
They are out by Speedway Boulevard now.
Oh my gosh. This is one whale of a number of. This is going to be a massive car count.
Did you find yourself a good spot?
Oh yeah. I am parked right here by the go-kart grandstands.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I know where you are.
He got there early.
Yeah, he did. All right. Well, we've seen pictures of the car, which, by the way, looking really, really good, not just because we've got our logo on there, which we thank you again for, but also you were running some practice laps yesterday, some hot laps. How was the results?
We was the fastest one in the first practice session with a 14:14. Second session, we was in the 14:80s, which we had a bad shock. We had to put just a spare shock on the right rear. Robbie RPI was repairing our other shock. We only done 2 practice sessions. We're going to get one more this morning. So I think we're looking pretty good. Just like I said before, it's all about where you start. Which, hey, we're already back at the end of the race, so looking good.
There you go. Love it. We love to see that, and we are going to be out there coming up a little bit later on this afternoon into this evening, so we're definitely going to hunt you down and get to chatting with you, okay?
Yeah, just quoting on what y'all said earlier, I'm looking for a partnership on my car, but, like I said, I get to keep the car, so if anybody wants to put their name on my car, we're going for partnerships.
Jay Schiller's car is
do the same.
Jay Schiller's car is up for sale with the caveat that Jay Schiller gets to keep a hold of it.
Yes. It will continue to ride around the track. It does not go in your garage.
There you go.
But you can come work on it if you want
Absolutely, yeah. You can come see it anytime as long as you pick up a wrench and a screwdriver.
That's right.
Hey, y'all, I'm pulling in the racetrack now. They are probably 20 cars deep trying to get in the gate right now. 8:09 this morning.
What do you got going on? What's your schedule looking like today? What do you got on track?
Supposed to be drivers meeting at 9. That's what I heard. I don't know. We'll probably start getting our first practice session probably around, I'd say 11. But like I said, we got all this rain coming in, and I talked to them yesterday about what the prediction was going to be. Thought it might be like running the feature Monday, but like I did a few years ago, but they said they're getting the race in today and tomorrow, no matter how late we got to stay.
Okay, we know that we've talked about this numerous occasions in several of the different series that we talk about. For you on a dirt track, obviously there's moisture in the track when you're just doing a regular race, when the weather is whatever you would consider perfect on a Saturday night. In a case of rain, do you have to set the car up differently, and how?
It will. Like we're set up right now for a dusty, dry, slick racetrack. If this rain comes in, hey, we're going to be chasing our tails again. We'll be starting all over, probably loosening, freeing the car up. What you do is when the track dusts and dries, we tighten the car up. If you take a tight situation, dry, slick, dusty, slow setup, and try to put it on a tacky fast, you're going, what NASCAR says, you're going to push like a dump truck.
Okay. Ooh. Gotcha.
What do you when you go out there today and you know the conditions that you're going to have, how do you kind of fix that inside the car? How do you come up with what you need to do to work on today versus running tomorrow where you're not going to have the conditions that you have today? What do you got to do inside that car to get that thing taken care of?
What I'm going to do is I got my guys, and we'll just make a game plan first thing this morning. If we do start getting some moisture in the rain starts coming in, I'll tell them what we're going to need to do as soon as I come back in. And if the car is still tight while I'm up there, I'm just going to dial me some rear brake in and hope for the best and get around whoever I can.
All right. So you've got driver's meeting at 9, and you said on-track action should begin right around 11?
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, we're going to be out there this afternoon. We'll hunt you down, okay?
Come on, buddy. We got chili ready to go. Chili and Fritos.
There you go.
Love it. All right. We will see you this evening, sir. You have a great day.
All right, buddy.
All right, looking forward to this. This is going to be great stuff. Again, look them up online, Talladega Short Track. Look up their website. Go to their Facebook page. Doesn't matter. We'll be out there roaming around all over the place. We'll spend some time with late model Mark up in the improvised tower.
We'll post some pictures.
Oh, yeah. We'll be all over the place. Instagram.
That's right. Instagram, at Fastest Hour, and also on the Facebook.
Facebook.com/The Fastest Hour in Radio, and who knows how much of that will actually work its way over to Twitter.
Actually, all of it. I've got them all connected now.
Oh, nice. Okay, so
I think I've got it working properly.
Okay. Back into Formula One. Rumors out of France have Renault looking to overhaul some of the upper echelon of the former Lotus operation they just recently purchased for the grand total of $1.50 plus paying all their debts. Among the moves to be made could be a former Formula One champion, Alain Prost, being brought on board as the team principal. That would be a big move for them. Former Caterham executive Cyril Abiteboul has been working for the Renault Formula One operation for some time now. He's set to take over as managing director. Jerome Stoll will be the chairman. You've got a press release out of the French automaker saying that it is not confirming anything, and all will be revealed at an event in Paris sometime in the month of February.
I love how they always say, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we're going to skip down. Kimi Räikkönen was kind of complaining about some of the tracks and feeling like they were all kind of the same. Hey, we've seen that.
Yes.
1.5 mile, quote-unquote, cookie-cutter tracks in NASCAR.
Yes.
We'll skip over that, though, and talk about Ferrari may already be talking about their replacement for the aging Kimi Räikkönen. I say aging. He's old for the Formula One series, 37 years old, and Räikkönen's reportedly been flirting with retiring, but he is set to run at least the 2016 season for the noted Italian race team.
That means my racing career is already pretty much over because I'm 35
Only
now.
in Formula One.
Only in Formula One.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mick Schumacher. Yep, Schumacher.
Yeah, pay attention to this name, folks.
Mick Schumacher, son of noted 7-time champion Michael Schumacher, reportedly close to a deal that would put him with the team that his father dominated the sport with. Mick Schumacher is only 16.
Mm-hmm.
Not eligible due to Formula One's minimum age instituted last season, so he'd have 2 more years before he could drive in the top racing series. But a Dutch newspaper reports that the younger Schumacher is close to a deal with a Ferrari junior team by the name of Prima. The team's founder and owner, Angelo Rosen, told media that he is slated to meet with Schumacher and his manager, Sabine Kim, who was also Michael Schumacher's manager, as we know from our updates on that injured Hall of Famer. Michael Schumacher won 5 of his 7 Formula One championships with Ferrari, 5 of them all in a row, 2000 to 2004. So, Mick Schumacher, obviously, I don't know the pedigree. I haven't seen his racing career up to yet. It's not very long. He's only 16. I know that we've heard some people saying, hey, we know he's the son of Michael Schumacher, 7-time Formula One champion, and, the guy who's got the most wins all time in Formula One. Let's not necessarily lay the father's expectations on the son just yet.
Not yet. I mean, it's going to take some time. I haven't got a chance to see his resume either. But if the pedigree is there.
Well, for all of you who are Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans, you may take this a little bit too personally.
Oh, this is not Dustin Harmer speaking.
But you think about the expectations of what we knew of when Dale Earnhardt Jr. died, tragically, way too early. The number of wins he had, which was at that point in time top 5 all time, 7 Cup championships over his time, tied with Richard Petty for the most all time.
Right.
To expect that out of Dale Earnhardt Jr. is overreach.
It is. And we talk about it. We talked about it a little while ago. We talked about the longevity. We talked about the time in the sport and everything else.
Sure.
And the sport has come very far now. I mean, back in the day when it was Dale Earnhardt Sr., you had the likes of Richard Petty, and you had all these guys that were the top cream of the cream. You know, they were the cream of the crop, the whole thing. Now there's a lot more out there. So the sport has not only grown where it's gotten a lot more talent brought in, not taking anything away from all the guys that raced back in the day, but there's a lot more to contend with now than there was back in the day.
Well, I got to thinking about this earlier because earlier on this week, the Baseball Hall of Fame, the Baseball Writers Association of America, they said that 2 more people are going to go into the Hall of Fame. And Ken Griffey Jr. is one of those. And Ken Griffey Jr. got named on 99.3% of the ballots, which means only 4 people that voted.
On his first time.
On his first time, right. So that shows how good he was. But he's
Right.
Ken Griffey Jr. His father was a noted Major League Baseball player. Ken Griffey Sr. lasted a good long time. He was part of the Big Red Machine of the Cincinnati Reds 1975 and 76, back-to-back World Series champions. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he had a very good career. Ken Griffey Jr. is one of those guys who had a superstar dad and exceeded his dad.
Yes.
That's a rare case.
It is. But it just goes to show that, you know, that's the pedigree part itself.
Sure.
Where you've got somebody, my son's better than me, that type thing.
Yeah.
But, sorry, you know, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is nowhere
And again,
near
he's
his
not the
dad.
only one that we're talking about here,
Yeah,
but
there's
he
a
is,
lot of them.
in racing, that is one of those things that we need to look at.
Yes, it
You
is.
know? So Mick Schumacher, 16 years old, let's not go putting all the pressure of the world on him just yet.
Yeah, they don't need that. I mean, we're looking at that right now with Chase Elliott.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Is he going to be
look at.
anywhere near as good as his dad? His dad has so many records. He's got a then Winston Cup championship to his credit. Will Chase Elliott do it? Don't know. Rick Hendrick loves what he sees out of Chase. But
guess what? It's a basic form of King of the Mountain.
that's a good way to put it.
There you go.
Not known whether this is going to threaten their place on the Formula One calendar, but the city of Barcelona's council is looking to cut the amount of funding they provide to the Spanish Grand Prix by about 50% sometime in the near future. Currently, the city grants about 4 million euros to the event annually. They plan to cut that contribution to about 2 million euros annually this year as part of a move. They want to make the circuit stand on its own. Not a bad idea.
No.
Circuit announced plans during the 2015 race weekend to host through at least the 2019 season, but that occurred before the current city council was elected. The first elected deputy mayor of Barcelona said that the decision to cut funding provided in part by the city was because, quote, Formula One is not a priority. Bernie Ecclestone is going, oh, really? Geraldo Pissarello said that the idea is to cut funding completely, but it's going to be phased out in order to give the track a chance to find replacement funding through other sources instead of eliminating it in one fell swift, or swell fifth, or whatever you want to call it, which he admits could cause damaging consequences. He added he is talking with some surrounding communities around the city of Barcelona to see if they can put together a viable business plan that could help out the Circuit de Catalunya and remain viable as its own entity. They want to keep the race where it's been since 1991. They just don't want government money going to it. That's it. It's kind of like what we saw in Texas. Texas, that sports, the governmental organization that kind of helps fund big sporting events. Yeah. Not just talking about your average University of Texas or Dallas Cowboys or Texas Rangers game. We're talking about Super Bowls, All-Star games, Formula One, NASCAR. That's what that fund goes toward. They're cutting their funding of the American Circuit of the Americas and the Formula One Grand Prix, and that's put the Circuit of the Americas U.S. Grand Prix a little bit on the burner as well. So we'll see where that goes. Officials over at Sahara Force India have said that should Nico Hülkenberg gain interest from a bigger team, they wouldn't stand in his way after the season. Hülkenberg has yet to claim a podium finish since he debuted in Formula One back in 2010, but he did pick up a good number of championship points with what most term as second-tier equipment. He also claimed the win along with 3 other drivers in last year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. Now, speculation had him as a possible target for Ferrari before Sebastian Vettel surprised a whole lot of people, announcing he was leaving Red Bull, and it caused Ferrari to turn to the 4-time champion after the 2014 season and locked him in for 2015 and on. Sahara Force India then signed Hülkenberg to a 2-year extension, which does run through the 2017 season. Team principal Bob Fernley, though, told Autosport magazine that if someone wanted his services before the contract was complete, they might seek a form of compensation for the German leaving for greener pastures, but they'd let him go. Hülkenberg has since responded to that report. He told Motorsport.com, quote, I'm not obsessed with getting a top ride. He blamed the media for creating a smokestorm where there's no fire and said these words, quote, you guys keep thinking so hard about the top teams for me. It's kind of a compliment in a way, but, you know, let me concentrate on doing what I'm doing, man.
Yeah, let me do what I do.
Let's see what else we can get to. One more note here, and it's kind of odd. in the fact that we talk about an American in such big terms in Formula One, but sad news, the man that helped bring McLaren into Formula One and helped them become a front-running organization has passed away. Tyler Alexander, a rare thing in Formula One, an American. He was born in Hingham, Massachusetts. Grew up, friended a lawyer from Pennsylvania by the name of Teddy Mayer. Mayer was involved in motorsports along with his brother Timmy. Timmy was the driver. The trio met Bruce McLaren while they were over in England for one particular race. McLaren ended up being so impressed with Alexander that he hired him, initially as a mechanic in 1963. Over his time with McLaren, he held several roles, ultimately moved up to the director of operations before he left in 1980, 10 years after Bruce passed away. He reunited with Teddy Mayer for an IndyCar organization in 1983, but ended up leaving there, returning to McLaren in Formula One in 1989, stayed there through 2008 before he retired, right after seeing Lewis Hamilton claim his first title with McLaren. Tyler Alexander was 75 years old. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to him and his friends. The aforementioned Auto Week Awards recognized Formula One team for their 2015 efforts. Mercedes, to no one's surprise, tabbed as the magazine's first honoree for Team of the Year in racing. The German automaker is now a two-time defending Manufacturers' Cup winner in the world traveling sport, and again, that goes under the title of Duh.
Yeah, that was a given.
One note from the FIA Formula E Series, stewards have announced plans to increase the power output of the electric racers. Over the next 3 seasons, power is going to increase about 25% from its current 200 kilowatts. For the remainder of the season, the Series second, power is going to remain at that 200 level, but next year going to go up to 220 kilowatts. And by Season 5, total output 250 kilowatts. I assume that means they're going to run faster.
I really don't know how that works.
I'm not really sure either. Also,
They'll still be quiet.
Yeah, really. Also in time for Season 3 is an upping of the regeneration power of the car. It's currently at 100 kilowatts. It's going to go up to 150 kilowatts next year. Mostly that's through regenerative braking, so it helps them go a little bit longer.
Won't that make the batteries last less, too, though?
That I don't know.
Maybe they're looking to...
I think it would actually allow them to go a little further into the race because you're building up that much energy and putting it back into the batteries.
We need an electrician.
Yeah, really. There is one note that actually may help them when it comes to going a little faster. They're going to drop the weight, according to European reports, by 8 kilograms. I had to go look that up. That translates into about 17 pounds less weight going into next season.
Well, then that just kind of balances that whole power output to weight loss out.
Yes.
Then you would think.
I think.
I don't know.
I'm not an electrician. Auto Week Awards honored an NHRA pilot, specifically two-time defending Pro Stock champion Erica Enders. She claimed the driver award for the first annual round of the awards. That's impressive when you think about who they possibly could have gone out and gotten. Any number of champions from NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, and they went with Erica Enders, so congratulations to her.
Good job.
Speaking of the NHRA, the organization has announced that Southland Truck and Trailer has been brought on as a major sponsor of the series. The company is a leading distributor of heavy-duty trucks and trailers. They're officially the heavy-duty truck dealership of the sport. Southland, through a sponsorship, will provide the NHRA with tractors and trailers going to fold into their existing fleet of vehicles, transporting equipment from event to event in the Mellow Yellow drag racing series. That's the nationwide one, not the localized one. The dealership is based in Southern California, where the Mellow Yellow event, first one of the 2016 year, is going to be held. Jonathan Gray is set to move from Pro Modified for the over to the Pro Modified division for 2016. It's announced he will be piloting a Chevrolet Camaro. Precision Turbo and Engine going to be a sponsor. Gray takes over the car from Don Walsh Jr., who claimed to win in 2015 in that car in Houston. Walsh said he was stepping away for the car for his family and other business efforts. So Jonathan Gray moves in and over from the Pro Stock division, where he claimed the runner-up finishes at Sonoma and Dallas in 2015. He was 10th in season-ending points in that division. Now, Bo Butner is preparing for his first full year of Pro Stock division racing this coming year. He missed the 2015 season's first 6 events and then another one shortly thereafter, but he proved he was more than capable of competing with full-time operations, got 13th overall in season-ending points. He's going to take over a Chevy Camaro for KB Racing, which supplied the engines for his part-time effort in 2015. Toyota and Team Kalitta are getting a little bit more and more cozy, and all that means is that it will result into an expansion into a third division for Kalitta's operations, adding to the current stable of Del Worsham and Alexis DeJoria's Toyota Camry funny cars. Toyota will back Team Kalitta as they add top 2, not just 1, but 2 top fuel dragsters. They're going to be set to be driven by Doug Kalitta and J.R. Todd. Kalitta Motorsports and Toyota have been partner in the funny car ranks since 2006. Toyota's recently been the class of the top fuel class as well. They've nailed down wins in 15 of the 24 events in 2015 and nearly half of the top qualifiers as well. Toyota is moving into motorsports in the United States of America in a huge way. At some point in time, I half expect them to move into IndyCar and compete with Honda and Chevy.
Well, and it's been like a long time coming, but we're seeing them branch out. We're seeing them go into all different avenues. And there's avenues that we probably don't even know about that they're involved in that, just kind of comes up every now and then. But it's going to happen at some point. They're going to make that jump. Now, would they be ready? Probably not. It's probably one of those things where they would like to think about it.
We saw some growing pains in this because they did for about a 3-year stint right after Honda initially backed out of Formula One the first time that Toyota came in, and I think it was 2001 to about 2003. They came in and they just found out that they were in way over their heads and they didn't have the patience to deal with it.
Yeah.
And they kind of started to turn their attention to other things, and that's where NHRA and NASCAR and all that stuff came in. But again, I fully expect them to start to expand out. IndyCar, I think, would be the next logical step. Just recently, I heard an IndyCar racer, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Ryan Hunter-Reay, I think. I'd have to go back and look up the reports. But he said that he now also feels that IndyCar racers now are almost on an even keel with Formula One drivers, that you could easily see an IndyCar driver step into a Formula One racer and be competitive if the equipment is that competitive. In other words, they're not going to go in and say, for example, step into a Manor Marussia car and suddenly make it a world championship contender. But if they got the same equipment as, I'm not even going to go Lewis Hamilton, I'll say the second level. We've seen Sahara Force India, for example. We've seen Williams, for example. And I think it was Ryan Hunter-Reay who said they could easily step into Formula One and be every single bit the competitor that a current Williams driver is if they got a Williams car.
Oh, well, I guess this gets to open my door to my weekly Danica bashing then, because she's in good equipment and she can't get anything done. So, I mean, not saying that couldn't be a possibility. Ryan Hunter-Reay is a heck of a driver and a heck of a lot better than a Danica would be, but to move in. Yeah, well, he's probably got more. He's got more. Less. He has less messed up cars too. But that is a good point that he makes. That if you go into the right equipment, but granted, the right person who actually has some sense on driving could probably go into a sport and be able to drive.
Scott Dixon, I think, would be the first person I'd want to see. Now, granted, Scott Dixon is in that position that we were talking about Kimi Räikkönen a little bit earlier. I've got one more bit of NHRA news, but we'll get to that in a second since we're kind of off on this little tangent.
Yeah, I like tangents.
4-time champion, multiple-time winner, obviously moving up in the all-time wins list. I would love to see Scott Dixon get a shot in a Formula One car, and a good one.
Yeah.
Just to see what would happen, to kind of prove or disprove what Ryan Hunter-Reay has to say.
Throw one more name out there.
Sure.
Helio Castroneves.
He would be an interesting one as well. We've already seen Juan Pablo Montoya do it.
Yes.
So that's why we left him over to the side. One more note in the NHRA, and that deals with Mopar and Don Schumacher Racing. They announced recently they're going to continue their partnership into 2016. Matt Hagan, going to be the prime driver for the organization, going to pilot the Mopar Express Lane Dodge Charger RT. Schumacher has a relationship with Mopar. He drove their products from 1970 through 1973, teamed up with the brand again when he started his own team back in 2003, so that continues. Congratulations to them. And wow, we got through everything.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we know about how much we can get into, including taking phone calls.
That's right.
There was some confusion. Some people thought we were going to be out at Talladega Short Track broadcasting live this morning. Sorry, that was just never in the cards. Sorry about the misunderstanding, but that said, we will be out there this afternoon and this evening roaming around wearing the Fastest Hour and radio hats and, well, if they're not covered up by coats, shirts as well.
I'll be out there tomorrow, too.
And he'll be out there at least tomorrow. I may or may not be. We'll have to find out. In the meantime, enjoy the racing. Replays again tonight, 8 p.m. tomorrow morning, starting at 8:30 with a little bit of a break. You'll figure it all out then. John, thank you so much, sir. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you a little bit later on this afternoon.
Ice Bowl, baby.
Ice Bowl. With that said, enjoy the racing, and we will talk to you on this show next week.
See ya!